Hey guys, Ransom with one here again today to give you 5 helpful combat tips that you can start using immediately in order to get a leg up on your competition. I apologize if I sound a bit stuffy today, but I've had a cold the last week. But let's not let that get in the way, and let's go ahead and get started. Tip number 5. The minimap shows your enemy's elevation relative to your own. You may recognize this tip from a previous video of mine that I made for attrition players, but I'm reusing it here because it was far and away the thing people said they liked most about that video, so I'm putting it here again in case you missed it the first time. Here's the explanation exactly as I presented it in the original video. So on the minimap here you can see that this guy has a little white arrow below his red dot. That means that he's below you. If he had a white arrow above his red dot, that means he's above you. So cool little trick there if you didn't know what that means. Tip number 4. After a successful rodeo, the ejecting pilot is almost always, as in probably 9 times out of 10, directly in front of you and slightly below you. This is not a 100% of the time kind of thing. However, it does happen so frequently that it's always the first place you should look after the ejection sequence. They may be a little to the left or right by the time you see them, but they are practically never behind you. The only notable exception to this rule is in the case of a nuclear ejection. The basic principle still applies in the sense that the enemy will still start out directly in front of you and below you. However, they sometimes shoot much higher than you after a nuclear eject, so be sure to look up as well in this situation. Tip number 3. Empty Titans still in the dome shield are facing the direction of the player that called it in. As you can see here, I've spotted a Titan that has just dropped onto the map and is waiting for its pilot to board. Seeing that the Titan is facing away from me, I know that my enemy is most likely in that direction as well. I use this information to get the spot on him, and I make quick work of him with my 40mm. You can see this technique used again here. Case in point, notice that the Titan I called in for myself is facing from where I called it. So you should be aware that people might use this trick against you as well. As soon as I get in my strider, I notice the Titan has landed just behind me. Using what I just taught you, I go into guard mode and deny the enemy pilot of his Titan. Tip number 2. Dodge and run away to live and fight another day. That rhyme really wasn't intentional, but I'm going to stick with it. Sometimes in Titanfall you'll find yourself overwhelmed by enemies. Given that it only takes someone anywhere from 1 to 5 shots to kill you in most situations, sometimes the smart play is to just run away to live and fight. The only dodging technique I can teach you is just telling you to be as unpredictable as possible. One way you can do this is by changing directions as often as you can. Case in point, I've lost my Titan and now have 3 enemy Titans waiting to murder me after I eject, yet I live to fight another day. I know that at least one of these Titans is going to try and shoot me out of midair, so I use a well-timed double jump to dodge any potential shots. The jump was purely intuition, but it clearly pays off. I then proceed to put as much distance as possible between myself and those Titans until I can recoup for a second attack. So as you can see, I've dodged and ran away, but I still need to live to fight another day. So here we go. I'm going to come up on these Titans here, and I'm going to see that this Titan right here is all alone, or at least I thought, so I change my mind seeing that his buddy's actually there and decide that I better get him alone. So I use my stim pack to get up to him really quick, and then I use just a simple rodeo technique to take this guy on one-on-one now that he's isolated from his friends. Geniusly arc grenade myself, not a technique I would recommend, but just by continuing to pursue this guy, waiting for him to get distracted a little bit, I will eventually score the takedown on his Titan here. And last but not least, we have tip number 1. Incorporate wall runs and jumps into combat. A lot of people think that this game has a great movement system, but when it comes to gunplay, it's basically just Call of Duty. If you're stuck in that mindset, then you're going to flounder against better players. Aiming down sights obviously has its advantages, but it severely limits your speed and dodging capabilities. If you get the drop on someone, it's totally fine to stay on the ground and aim down sights at them. So long as you have steady aim, you'll probably take them out first. Unless that person is playing like I'm telling you to now. This concept is best explained by examples. Here I have stumbled across an enemy that has the drop on me, as well as a health advantage since I was hit in the last few seconds. If I stay on the ground and try to beat him by aiming down the sights, he's going to beat me 9 times out of 10 if he even has remotely competent aiming skills. Instead, I opt to use the nearby boxes to chain together a string of wall runs, finished off by a satchel charge that I throw at him, which will hopefully kill him while I fall into cover behind more boxes. You're going to see more of the same here again, as you'll see a second guy comes up and gets the drop on me, and once again I use wall runs to my advantage to get away from him. I don't get the kill, but I probably would have, as you'll see in this clip. If you don't understand exactly what I mean yet, this clip really captures the technique perfectly. While I get the drop on this player, he still notices me, so watch where he's aiming as I'll wall run and double jump over his head. Watch the clip again in slow motion, and you'll really see how the guy fails to keep up with me as I change my direction and velocity rapidly. Notice how he's always left one step behind? Well, this technique is certainly the hardest one on the list to use properly, but if you play with the mindset that the movement is part of combat and not just a means of getting around the map, you will find yourself dying a lot less often and even scoring more kills each round. The two best weapons for practicing this technique are the shotgun and the car plus counterweight attachment. Well guys, that's going to do it for this installment of Tips and Tricks. I hope you all got something out of this video, and I hope you consider subscribing to the channel as I try and put out a wide range of content at a semi-frequent pace. Thanks for watching everyone, and be sure to check out my other videos if you're interested.